Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. Now, the content that I've got for you tonight is probably going to irritate you, particularly if you're anything like me, because I'm quite honestly sick of the American dream, the American rights, the American culture being disparaged by gun controllers who don't even know what they're talking about, particularly when it comes to our freedoms, our rights, and our liberties. That's what we're going to dive into, and this one I might get spicy, fair warning. Everything's going to be linked in the description box below, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think about this one in the comments field. Now, if you are new or returning viewer, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and making sure you turn the notification bell on. We need as many people as we can to get into the fold with us to counter just this type of propaganda that I'm about to show you. This content tonight is brought to you by SDI. Now, I know a lot of you out there like to modify and upgrade your own guns. And if you're looking to turn a hobby into a career, Sonoran Desert Institute can help. Their online programs cover everything from armor courses, ballistics, shooting sports management, woodworking and finishes, plus so much more, and all the tools and materials are shipped directly to your door. There's never been a better time to do that hobby into that career. So what are you waiting for? There's a link in the description box below, and thank you so much to SDI for making this content possible. But my brothers and sisters, as I mentioned in the introduction, we have rights in this country. We have freedoms in this country. People have died. They have shed their blood, sweat, and tears for the freedoms of which we cherish and, quite honestly, some other people take for granted. Particularly the ones from CNN when they're besmirching the American dream. They're besmirching that sacrifice, and they're besmirching everything that has come before us for their idea of utopia, which is impossible. And how do they achieve utopia? Manipulation. And that is why it irritates me beyond belief. Let's get it. I'm going to show you this. Enough setup. Let's get it. One nation under gun violence. America tops 100 mass shootings in 2023. Now, this came out today. Paul LeBlanc from CNN felt like that really needed to be said. But I'm going to do something out of order. I'm going to show you one of the pieces that's pivotal where he is not understanding a basic core tenet of our freedoms, and it's out of order, but we'll be okay. Quote, "There are real solutions and tools, including bans on the sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, available now that can make a difference, but only if our elected officials act to implement them," he added. Yet America's relationship to gun ownership is unique, and its gun culture is a global outlier, complicating legislative efforts. So I'm going to come back to that first part at the end of this video. The second part, though, let's hit it. I'm going to show you something really quickly. America's relationship to gun ownership is unique. Yes, it is. You know what else is unique? Our freedoms amongst the population of the planet. They're extremely unique. In fact, we're the only country in the world that has the Constitution that actually prohibits the government from doing things to you, specifically when it comes to the Second Amendment. It's written in for a very specific reason. But let's keep going. And its gun culture is a global outlier. Again, we're also a global outlier of freedom. That's why people risk their lives to cross deserts, to cross oceans, to put themselves in jeopardy, bearing their children along the way on their backs and hoping to God that they get there because of the freedom that we offer. We're a global outlier, all right. This type of manipulation really irks me. But complicating legislative efforts because we're so free. That's because it's a violation of the Second Amendment. That's that piece out of order. Now let's get to the order that Paul wants you to know, because clearly he's got some points. Washington, CNN. The U.S. has surpassed 100 mass shootings in 2023, a disturbing milestone that underscores the grave cost of inaction in Washington and state legislatures across the country. Skirt. I was under the impression that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act was the biggest, most sweeping gun legislation that Biden has ever signed. The biggest thing since the Gun Control Act of 1994. I thought this was the hugest, most amazing thing. It was going to do all the things that was promised. And yet, it's still I'm confused. Let's continue, because that's going to come up again in a second. I'm so tired of this manipulation. Last year, the U.S. hit 100 mass shootings on March 19th, per the Gun Violence Archive. So that shows you how biased this article is. Almost 2 weeks after this year's date. So it's a 2-week difference. That's what they're highlighting here. The previous year, 2021, saw a late March date as well. And from 2018 to 2020, there weren't 100 mass shootings until May. Now, keep in mind, mass shootings, they don't talk about crime, they don't talk about drugs, they don't talk about drive-bys, they don't talk about gang violence, they don't talk about altercations, nothing. It's just if 4 individuals are touched by a bullet, that's a mass shooting. For example, do you remember 100 mass shootings this year? They're terrible things. They shouldn't exist. Violence of this nature, people doing this to people, shouldn't exist. The fact is, that's why we have a police force, because people are imperfect. The idea that it's never going to happen if you just get rid of guns all into completion, it will never happen because someone's always going to keep theirs, which is why the criminals have all their guns, even with all the gun control you could pass in the world. Let's keep going. I'm getting distracted. Quote, listen to this. Americans are tired of fearing if they or their families will be the next victims of a mass shooting. Our children are tired of being told to run, hide, and fight, said Chris Brown, president of Brady, United Against Gun Violence, an organization seeking to mitigate gun violence in the U.S. Well, that was a flowery way to put it. Brady United Against Gun Violence is a gun control organization. The entire founding of that organization was tied back to the Brady Bill, which did a whole lot of infringing back in 93, I believe was the year. Don't quote me on that. Quote, these regular, uniquely American tragedies must be a call to action for our political leaders. We need decisive change to U.S. gun laws and regulations. The cost of political inaction on preventing gun violence is increasingly tragically clear, Brown said, again, from Brady United. No mention of the crime increases. No mention of all the lack of police funding. No mention of the mental support that's been shut down by Democrats across the board while calling for gun control. None of that's mentioned. No. We have a gun problem in the United States. Not a problem with the heart and the mind that would fuel this. No. It's the inanimate object. Oh, let's keep going before I get way too spicy. But following passage of last year's bipartisan gun safety law, here it comes, there's been little political momentum in the divided Congress for more gun safety legislation, even as the rate of mass situations has picked up. You know, it's interesting because going back to my intro, I remember the bipartisan gun safety law, what they're talking about, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, was going to solve all the woes. That's what Chris Murphy told us. That's what Biden told us. That's what Chuck Schumer, everyone told us. That's what the 15 Republicans who crossed the aisle told us. And now all of a sudden, it's just not enough. We got to ban assault weapons and those magazines, even though assault weapons, which isn't even a thing, assault weapons, as they would call them, are responsible for a minute fraction of all gun violence in the United States. Most of it's handguns. In fact, fist, hammers, feet, knives, those outpace any type of rifle, not just assault rifles, any type of rifle. But that's not about fact. It's about emotion. Target the scariest thing, we can get it. Anyway, let's keep going. Now we're back to the first part. There are real solutions and tools, including bans on the sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, available now that can make a difference, but only if our elected officials act to implement them, he added. That's the first part, which we're going to hit back on. Assault weapons, or ARs, or rifles, are a minute amount of gun violence in this country. They're not focusing on the problem. This is not about solving the problem. This is about solving freedom. This is solving with control. They're never going to offer you a problem without a solution ready. And that's what this is about. That's why we fight so hard in this country. That's why we fight so hard on this channel, to prevent these type of manipulating gun controllers to take the next generation's rights along with ours. Thank you so much for putting up with my spiciness. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. I'm Braden. See you later.